Let's look at some different ways to power your camera. We're going to look at this in 3 different categories. We got budget, indie, and pro. The definitions of these categories can mean different things to different people. Like when I was just starting out, anything in indie category would have been way outside of my budget. So don't feel bad if like one of these categories isn't achievable. It doesn't mean you can't make a film. It also doesn't mean you need to spend your life savings on these, especially if this is just a hobby. I don't know where you're at financially, but I want to help you make the best choice in any budget price point that you're going to be at. Let's break down these categories a little more clear cut. Budget, $0 to $50. This is for people who need to pinch every penny possible and they want to get into the film world while still spending the least amount of money. At the indie level, $50 to $200, you're a little bit more concerned about workflow and your time, but you still can't justify spending the big bucks. But you at least like when things work 90% of the time. And at the pro level, you're spending $200 plus. This is for when you're more concerned about lost time and that every shot is mission critical. But more than that, it's that the gear is standardized and fits into a pro workflow and can also integrate into other people's workflows as well. And before we get too far into this video, there's one purchase that everyone needs to make. Buy an AC adapter. Every camera bag and case needs to have a wall plug. And you're gonna thank me next time you get in a tough spot. They're not expensive, just do it. No matter what price point you're buying at, make sure you have a wall plug. You wouldn't believe it, but the camera just died. I fixed it by using the AC adapter because I have all the other batteries over here. So one of the things that's going to keep coming up in this video is that within each category, there's going to be some options. Just like with anything in life, within each battery style category, there's going to be a cheap and expensive option. So let's put it this way. You can pick 2 of these: longevity, battery life, or cheap. So let's start with the budget category. Now this is probably the most obvious, but use the battery that came with your camera. If you're looking to spend $0, use what you already have. But the OEM batteries are actually pretty expensive, and we're going to talk about that here a little bit later. So what we're talking about in this category is actually like knockoff batteries or USB power banks. So some sacrifices made in this category are going to be the battery life and the need to charge frequently. And this can be an issue if your camera's rigged up a little bit and the battery door is blocked, or if you're doing a live shoot and your battery doesn't last the whole length of the event. That's where the AC adapter from earlier comes in. If you want more than the battery that came with your camera, you're going to have to make a choice. Do you buy OEM or do you buy knockoff? The OEM batteries can be expensive, like this Panasonic S1 battery, but people do make knockoffs that can be as little as 33% of the price. So what kind of compromises are made for a battery that's 33% of the cost? I have firsthand experience with this. They don't have the same lifespan as an OEM battery. I had 2 sets of my knockoff batteries die from my GH5 before my OEM battery showed any signs of wear and tear. Well, that was lifespan. What about battery life? Personally, I saw that my knockoff batteries lasted about as long as my OEM batteries did. And I've seen that echoed on some online results as well. So a reputable knockoff can last just as long as the OEM in terms of useful battery life. Now this is opinion. I'd say for most people, they're gonna upgrade cameras before they reach the breaking point for buying OEM batteries or whatever. So that's why I put knockoff batteries in the budget column and OEM batteries in the indie column. These knockoff batteries are the exact same backup batteries that we use in our Pocket 4K as a fallback for our pro batteries. So let's go back to our triangle. You can get an OEM battery for a long lasting and solid battery life, or you can get a solid battery life and cheap knockoff battery that won't last you for years. This theme is going to continue to stay true as we continue on, so use this to your advantage depending on your goals. Each of these categories is going to have an external power option as well. The budget category is no different. Although in this category you give up some reliability / ergonomics depending on your camera's power requirements, you could use a USB power bank. This is a great affordable option since more USB power banks are made than a specific model of battery. And they have economies of scale and can deliver a more quality product at an even lower price point. One sacrifice here is cable security and longevity. We've all accidentally ripped a cable out of its port and seen how it loses its confidence of connection over time. This is a real issue if you're in the middle of a take and the cable acts up. Keep this in mind as you consider using this solution. Make sure you have a backup internal battery or some other way to mitigate a critical failure. Stepping up in an indie category, you're spending $50 to $200. This is going to be our most broad category. And this is kind of where you have to pick between reliability or capacity. This is also the last time that we're going to see internal batteries on our list. If you want reliability, get some OEM style batteries, and if you're using a DSLR style camera, grab a battery grip to go with it. But if you're using a larger cinema camera, grab a larger version of your OEM battery, like a Sony NPF or Canon BPA, for example. The main downside to OEM batteries means that you're usually locked into that system and can't move them if you change cameras or use the batteries with other gear. That's all pretty straightforward, but the external options is where this price point gets super interesting. Some batteries are more standard, like the NPF or LPE6. You can get an adapter plate and use these batteries instead of your internal one. This allows for hot swapping, more capacity, or just cheaper, more energy-dense batteries. Again, because of economies of scale. The other benefit to moving to a system like this is that it's movable to a new camera. Just buy a new adapter and you have all the same power you had before. So if you're looking for an affordable way to power your cameras, look for an NPF battery and an adapter plate for your specific camera. If you need something larger, get one that has 2 of them. Now we do have some higher end indie options coming up, but we need to talk about the pro options first before we can really get a good comparison of where you need to land. V-mount and gold mount. You knew this was coming. But why does everybody use these? Well, to some extent, it's because everybody else does. Don't get me wrong, these batteries can technically perform at the highest level and meet a strict requirement of specifications. Standardization is critical for an efficient production, and to have all batteries for various devices using the same mount type is critical. But the pro category isn't cut and dry. This one totally depends on how pro you want to be. A cheap V-mount battery and a D-tap charger could fall well into the indie category, and maybe a good move for someone who thinks they're going to step up camera soon. Pretty much any V-mount or gold mount battery will power a DSLR or mirrorless camera for days, and I'm not exaggerating. When we used one of these with our GH5, we only charged it after about the 4th interview shoot. So if both styles of batteries are great, what's the difference between V-mount and gold mount? Well, according to Anton Bauer's website, gold mount and V-mount are the 2 most popular battery mounting systems in the industry. Which battery mount to use comes down to personal preference. Well, there you go, straight from the horse's mouth. It's personal preference. From what I've been told in the international market, V-mount sounds like it's the way to go. While V-mount is popular in the US, a lot of people choose to go gold mount here. In the indie scene, I think you'd be hard pressed to find gold mount, but as you go up, it seems like it's more common. Obviously, all that's perception. Buy whatever style you work around the most, unless you're willing to foot out the bill for a full fleet of batteries. Let's talk about an area that I'm a little bit more familiar with though. In the Steadicam world, gold mount is used almost exclusively for the fact that it's way harder to kick the battery off or for it to fail and come off on its own. Because of the orientation of the plate on a Steadicam, it means that gravity could slide the battery off in a V-mount option. Whereas if people choose gold mount, that's nearly impossible. We personally in my business have Anton Bauer batteries and gold mount for our cameras, again for aforementioned Steadicam reasons. But we went with Anton Bauer for one particular reason, lifesaver mode. After a quick Google search, I could only find it referenced briefly in some manuals, and I'll put it up on screen now. But I'm not sure exactly how it works, and I haven't looked into how effective it is. But just from a basic knowledge of batteries, this is a great feature that I haven't seen on other battery systems to date. This keeps your expensive batteries lasting longer, and anecdotal evidence of that is I have a used Diodic 90 that lasts longer on my Ursa Mini than my brand new Titan 90. Especially considering some 4-year-old IDX batteries I use now just won't even charge past 75%. Now, I may have just fallen for some marketing, but it is something to consider when looking into a system. But Anton Bauer batteries are about $100 more than a comparable reputable competitor like IDX, which is why our 300X lights are the V-mount variants, because for those we just needed a lot of power cheaply. So we end up just using our gold mount batteries for our cameras. I hope someday that we can move over completely to gold mount, but for now, cost is a factor. So if cost is a factor, let's talk about another way to get in this category in a budget. Look for used batteries online. Just verify their charge level before purchasing. This was a used battery, and it does last as long as my new Titan does. So again, you can get good deals. This was about $100, and this was about $300. But I also have a couple bricks over there that were used batteries that were about $100. But it came with a charger, so it was like a combo deal. So I was just talking about bricks of a battery. Well, another option with V-mount or gold mount batteries is to get them reselled. When they've reached their useful life, you can send the batteries to someone who can crack them open, put new cells in, and send it back to you. I've not gone through this process personally, but I've heard good things. Just take a minute to look at the services and make sure it's right for you. So let's wrap this up. There's a few big takeaways. If you go internal battery, you're looking for a run and gun option to maintain the original ergonomics. But really, if you plan on doing anything in a more traditional way, then moving to external power is usually the better move. This is where your long-term planning comes in. If you want to do this professionally, or you eventually think that you'll have the highest level of gear at some point in your life, it's best to get into the pro category sooner than later, as soon as it makes financial sense to do so, obviously. And this is true with everything, not just batteries. So if this is you and you want to shoot a film or run a production company, step up to the cheap gold mount and V-mount batteries sooner than later. If you need to save some money, then look at the other options I mentioned. But if you're a pro, well, you probably have already bought into a system. I personally love my AB batteries, even with an old charger, and the lifesaver mode does give me peace of mind knowing that they're being maintained, because this battery cost more than my first camera. So here's a couple things I forgot to mention. One, again, here's this D-tap cable that you can use with a battery plate. So if you get a cheap gold mount battery or V-mount battery or whatever, go on Amazon or AliExpress or whatever, and get you a plate that then can attach to here, and boom, you got battery power for days. But this guy I bought for about $100, and it's gold mount Anton Bauer, and it works with this guy. So together I was able to get a pretty affordable charger for about $100 and a battery for about $100. So I got into the gold mount system and Anton Bauer system pretty cheaply. But I did have to upgrade the firmware on this. Yes, I had to upgrade the firmware on a charger because it didn't know how to talk to this guy, my new Titan battery. So once I did that, it actually worked great. If you want to see a video on how I upgraded the firmware, let me know. It's pretty straightforward, super easy.